It's Tick. Berry pumps it away. Keys, they're going to go crazy here, the Crow fans. Another all-time classic. Showdown 59. One of the greatest. And the narrowest possible margin. A 1-point win. Catch your breath and soak it in.
Alrighty, hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. We're here recording on a Monday, the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you to all my fellow Star Wars nerds out there, which I definitely am one. But unfortunately for our side on Friday evening, heartbreakingly so, the Force was not quite with us to the slimmest of margins, 11-10-76 to 11-9-75. Was the final as a chaos ball final minute saw both sides in a proper last goal wins seeming scenario that only added to the lore around the showdown that builds just with every edition that is played. But Jamie, good evening, mate. We're a few days removed now as we record, but goddamn, watching the replay today, I felt very, very much back in the glass case of emotion state of being that I was post-game Friday, sitting in the dark, deep into my cups of stout.
Oh, it just leaves you shaking your head over and over again, doesn't it? And hello to you and everyone else joining us. Thanks for joining us a day earlier in the week, as is our promise with earlier games. May the 4th be with you all, as Dave said. Yeah, that's rough. That's a rough way to have, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat just to have it snatched back. It was quite the dogfight in that regard to create a bit of imagery. Heartbreaking nonetheless, especially I think a phrase that I use fairly often to describe football is the agony and the ecstasy, except in this regard we had the ecstasy and then the agony, unfortunately. And look, there'll be Josh Carr mentioned in his post-match presser, there's a lot to learn from the whole game, to be honest. So, short-term, medium-term, long-term, I think we're going to benefit as a side. However, I'm sick of fucking losing to the Crows, and particularly in more recent times. I was saying to my brother yesterday that I remember when there was a period of time where, predominantly all of the thrillers, if not all of the thrillers, were Port wins. And in recent years, the Crows have managed to not only get quite the ledger against us to forge ahead in the head-to-head statistics. Yeah, they've won all the close ones as well, which hurts even more. So, yeah, I don't know where you want to begin, because in a 1-point loss, very similar to Hawthorn, you could go all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I want to hit probably a few general stats before we get into the lines, but maybe the first point to start with, just as a point to kind of go against the narrative a little bit. I will say, I think there was certainly a couple of contentious umpiring decisions that the Crows lost the benefit of. I think to try to remain objective, I think the Miller goal should have stood. I take the tack that while it was maybe a slight infringement, I looked at it and thought similar to maybe a pass interference in the NFL, where if a pass interference kind of call is judged on if the player has an ability to make a play on the ball, and I don't think Logan Evans was having any chance at disrupting that from being a goal. So unless it was like a real, a nasty infringement, so to speak, it was just kind of, to me, it was incidental contact. Wayne Miller's goal should have stood. And bringing you back to Port Adelaide, maybe I don't have to deal with the pain of the pain of it all, as you like to say sometimes, because they would have won it earlier. Obviously, I like to stay within the shot of the game and the way it went. Joe Berry having his moment, that he still deserves to have some plaudits for, which we'll talk about at some point. But I do think there was a couple of Crows had some major ones go against them, but we had some go against us as well. As a holding the ball where all the commentators are like, well, Peatling dragged it into Georgia, or was it Georgiades? I can't remember. But then they got the benefit of the doubt.
One on Byzantini.
That's a Vicentini
on
one I'm
the
thinking
western
of,
wing.
Yeah. So it was a game that it annoys me. This narrative that came out that like, oh, it's avoided the shit show of Crows fans complaining, and that would have happened, and there would have been
Wow,
apologies.
has it really?
Yeah. No, really, it hasn't, has it? It's like, oh man, we
No.
got it was robbed right in front of me, happening, even though they fucking won the game. Like, I loved. I don't know if you saw Sav. I don't want to hit it because they won. The sting is there, but I don't want to give that guy the fucking satisfaction on a podcast. Sav Megafan did a really good meme about Crows fans complaining. It was just like one of those like, well, actually kind of guys being like, just. But I think it was a game.
Have you
I don't think
ever
it goes
met
down.
a bunch of bigger fucking sore winners? See you next
Absolutely.
Tuesdays in your fucking life. Like, oh my gosh, you fucking won the game. Move on. Because like you said,
Enjoy
if
it.
you want to actually sit down, of course. Well, enjoy, winning a game where you were favourites, and for all intents and purposes, could have easily lost, but didn't. So enjoy it. But yeah, if you want to sit down and go through all the free kicks or non-free kicks that were paid, I'm more than happy to, because particularly in the third quarter, there's some quite critical ones that were either predominantly not paid, to our detriment. So that cost Corey Durden in particular 2 shots on goal. Like if you want to do that bullshit exercise, we can. Crows supporters, I mean, of course not you. But Jesus fucking Christ, like, shut the fuck up. Like, I saw that Rowie went on 5AA this morning and waxed lyrical about how we were gifted 4 goals, and I didn't listen to it, of course. I just saw the headline. It's not necessarily the way I see it. I thought we actually earned our goals pretty fair and square. I think most of the gripes are against some turning over of Crows goals, and suck a fuck a ding dong as far as I'm concerned. Like, of course, I mean, to be biased, and hate watchers and hate listeners, welcome. Thanks for the engagement. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, there's often a bump in the listens on these podcasts, and I assume it's Crows fans hate listening. So welcome, and I will give you some dues. And if those that listen, if they listen more, they'd recognise that I actually do give some dues to the Crows objectively here and there. And there'll be a few players in the due course of this podcast. But yeah, I think there's the Miller one, obviously, which again, being objective, I think should have stood. But taking out the fact that I take away my pain earlier, I actually just think, just based on just certain ways that I'd like to see the game officiated, I just think if unless it's an out and out infringement, it was borderline, and Logan Evans wasn't going to get.
I think it's funny that, like you said, Logan Evans didn't have a play on the ball, which I agree with. It was way too high for him to touch it. But I think it's equally funny that Rochelle still felt the need to push him, like in any capacity.
The same with the Butters goal on the dawn of at the cusp of halftime. That in front, 2 hands in the back as a player's going over the line. Yeah, you can call it 50-50, but it is there. Like that goal, that was there.
Thank
Don't
you.
do that. It's going out of play.
Don't put your hands square in someone's back. Like,
yeah.
Like, what what are we fucking talking about here?
Yeah. And I'll call out aerial discipline. I think that the free kick against Jacob Ware on they kind of set up the Crows.
The 50.
On the third quarter, because we kind of were dominating the first quarter, and then that kind of just gave them the circuit breaker to get down. They score from that. That, I think, is a 50-50 one. But again, it's like, don't give the umpire a chance to make a call. And so, while I'm disappointed, like,
kind of got tangled up.
Because it's one of those ones you're like, oh, is it really there? You see him not get paid plenty of times. But I look at it in the cold light of day, watching the replay today, I'm frustrated by it still. But I still do don't give the umpire a call to make, because in the split second that in those ones, I will, we complain about umpires getting the real bad ones wrong all the time. But those ones, I'm just like, look, there's a 50-50 call there to be made, and they make it. So I think it's a game that was unevenly officiated both ways, so that they don't really have a tangible impact on the overall game. The goal, the Saligo one over the post. It was funny when the goal umpire made the call. Mark Rashudo on commentating in commentary is going, "Oh, brave call by the umpire," and then Ken's like, "Glad he made it." And then when it gets overturned, which I don't agree with because I think they should go with the umpire's call on one that's, though it does, if you look at it, put a beam up, maybe it does go.
Hang on, just before you finish, I do think it's very funny that every person who has described that moment in time has mentioned the ball going over the post.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a Freudian slip. Even Jared Waitley, when he was waxing lyrical, it's like, well, yeah, the ball goes over the post, and it's like, yeah, that's why it was reviewed.
Yeah.
And it's generally a giveaway when you look at the players after instances like that. We had the Corey Durden poster against Geelong last week, and you just have to look on his face. And I did think it was quite telling that Jake Saligo didn't really celebrate because I think he felt that it went over the post. And not only that is in one. Yeah, it was kind of like a
line to see if the flag was going up. That's what Saligo did. He didn't celebrate until the fingers went. Like he was like, "I think that's offside."
Yeah, but and if you there's a split second on replay as well where you see a lot of the Port defenders remonstrating with the umpire to go to the arc. Again, I'm biased.
No.
I think if we shot a laser up from the goalpost or we had a camera, I think you would see the ball going over the top. I also think that this discussion is largely overblown and null and void because Isaac Rankin kicked a goal fucking like 30 seconds later. So if Saligo gets that goal, Rankin doesn't get the goal. Like, again, you won the fucking game, so shut the fuck up.
I want to shout out, and I'm not going to shout out Crows fans too much, but there was a Crows fan center of frame as Rankin kicks that goal, and they're showing fans celebrating. There was a Crows fan holding up 5 fingers and then doing this, and I'm like, he's doing 7-point play, and like I respect it because I do that a lot when I'm
yeah.
And like this Crows fan, I'll have to find it and clip it because I just think it's funny that this Crows fan was just recognizing the insanity of everything that's going on in that moment. But he's just like and just showing he's like 7-point play. So as a shithouse fan myself, I appreciated that as much as him being a Crows fan. But yeah, I think it's a game to kind of to start with the review, and we'll move forward from here. I really wanted to bring that up in a way to just say, look, they had some major ones again, and it's the frustrating thing about the Crows is they've just had these major ones that make them feel like they're victim FC, where they're really not. They just had these few, and it is a benefit of the fact that we're in the modern age of technology that a lot of these things happen. In the past, I wonder how many instances in the past we just don't know of because we didn't have the technology to have the benefit of hindsight with. For the next 10 minutes or so, I just want to look at some general stats before we get into the lines because the lines will bring up a lot of other different parts. But I just think it's an interesting game in the stats because it is fine margins and a few of them, obviously some big discrepancies here and there. There's a few I want to key in on just, but that kind of to me are the fine margins in where we lost it. We obviously have more of the ball, 7 plus 17 disposals. It's not a major advantage, but it is an advantage, and I think that's still a part of our game that we've improved ever since round 1, where we were really underdone against the Kangaroos and had fuck all of the ball comparatively. The inside 50s obviously were 59-39, so that's a major discrepancy. Disposal efficiency, the Crows disposed of it at 3% better at 74 versus 71, roughly. Efficiency inside 50, obviously based on the fact the way the game went, we were far better there. Free kicks I've already mentioned, 20-21 our way. Hit-outs, we did get domination there, but I think the Crows rucks actually had some wins in the second half, which did help them get the way they did. Clearances 38-35 our way, so marginal. Centre 13-11, 24 stoppage our way again, so marginally in our favour. But in a game, and I'll bring up a couple of other more deep stats in a moment. Contested ball, we lose -6. Again, a lot better than we have been last year. We've been a lot more even in the contested ball. We've been in the contest most games, but it is disappointing there. A major one I want to key in on is we had 76 turnovers to their 73, so we lose that margin by -3, but going in after this game, the stats are that we averaged 65.4 a game versus their 72.3. So we had a +7 advantage going in or outside of this game. We lose it by -3. So if you go on a seasonal average and how we've been playing, winning the turnover battle has been really important to our game. So you can kind of look at that as a real key major metric of where the game was lost for us. 103 marks to 78 and 12 marks inside 50, both our way. So really dominated there. So it's just like there's a lot of areas where we actually played really, really well. But again, those turnovers, 1 and 81 tackles to 69 their way. There's a few areas of contested ball that they won. 1% is 46-35 our way. I just want to just key in on one more thing before I bring it to you as I scroll back up through my stats pack because it's a little bit deeper with a few areas I wanted to kind of key in on. We also couple of areas around the contest that I kind of think that need to be brought up as I scroll down here. Ground ball gets, it was 107-84 to the Crows. Post clearance contested possession 91-82 and post clearance ground ball 65-51. All of those the Crows' way. So I think just in the fine margins of this game, the Crows were able to find some major wins, and Ken Hinkley actually brought it up in the commentary as well. I think in the third or fourth quarter, he said one of the areas that we were really feared when we were preparing for these games was if the Crows could get ground ball dominance around the contest, and they did that in this game. I thought it on the night, and when I was just like I was interested when I went into Willow ratings, I wanted to see if the ground ball and the post clearance kind of metrics matched up with what I thought I saw, and those numbers do to me, and that's kind of in a fine margins 1 point game. Those are kind of the areas that the Crows, particularly in the back half of the third quarter, kind of got on top. And again, it was a close game, but those fine margins are ultimately what won them the game. Just a better first of the ball and better usage of it out of those areas.
Yeah, it's been a room for improvement for a while, hasn't it? It leaves you scratching your head as to how that discrepancy can come about. Hamish Hartlett was in a press conference today and, mentioned that, it's been a deficiency for a while. It's trending in the right direction, but at the end of the day, it's still an opportunity for improvement, which, in the cut and thrust of it, like you said, there were some pivotal moments, and who knows, it might be heavily weighted towards the third quarter or the middle two quarters. Funnily enough, the two quarters that I didn't watch live, if I'm just putting that out there. So superstitions and whatnot. I'm sorry, everyone. Yeah, I know. And I get what you're saying. Like in a game of moments and in a game so close, like we're talking about one point, both teams won 2 quarters each. There's some stats that look quite good on our end, but there's some key stats that gave them the slightest of edges that you need to win a game of football. And it's a harsh reality. Dare I say it? They played quite a Ken Hinkley style of gameplay, just kind of with the inside 50 numbers, which I thought was kind of funny. Matthew Nix obviously being a disciple, if you will, of Ken Hinkley. And I think people are using that as to say that the Crows should have won by more. Maybe they should. Maybe that, but I think us as Port Adelaide fans know quite well that just because you have more inside 50s doesn't necessarily mean that you should be dominating a game. It just means that the area is much more congested. And then hence, those ground ball gets. I noticed that they were ahead in tackles as well. Oh, you probably just said it. So what I was going to say is, that congestion can lead to a lot of ground ball. But you would hope that we're probably a bit closer in tackles. What was it? 12 in the negative for us at the end of the game.
In some of these areas we've been pretty good in the last couple of weeks, despite having a fair share of the ball. So we dropped off in a couple of areas.
Not really unhappy with contested possession either. It's just where it is.
Those tackles, that tackle number is almost entirely down to Sam Berry having fucking 19 of them. But that's when one player just kind of does that, and you've got to find a way.
When he shot himself up to number one tackler in the league with that effort,
averaging eight a game after he has 19 in this one. It's just like, and it's credit. I hate saying it, but Matthew Nix, I think he's coached 12 showdowns. He's won 9 of them. He just finds a way to set his team up and find, I don't know what they do in the bulletin board material or what his pre-game speeches are or just what he's doing in the meetings during the week, but he sets these guys up to go out there and have performances like that. Wayne Miller, for me, Wayne Miller was my showdown medalist. That's who I was expecting his name to get called. I saw Sam Berry's stats afterwards and went like, oh, okay, yeah, but just eye test, I thought Wayne Miller was fantastic on the day, and watching the replay, I kind of stick with that opinion. Aaliyah, if we'd won, I think gets the medal as well. Well, maybe not. We saw Rosie get the medal in a losing effort last year, so maybe the votes hold and it goes to one of the Crows players regardless of the result, because they do get finalised.
Kane Corns didn't give Aaliyah one vote on the night. I find that astounding.
I mean, maybe
because talk about defense. I think it was Chad.
I do have stats about Aaliyah that not bad. It's just like his stats are incredible. But
while he had a couple of lowlights, you could, I think there are instances where the ball shouldn't have been.
Not to give him any votes, regardless of that.
Exactly. Like pure general down back, and not to get one vote when I think most of the people watching the game would have thought that, he didn't necessarily deserve to win it in a losing team, but he was Port's best player, so to speak. So I find that really interesting. Watching the game again, I would probably agree. Like Berry's stats look just astounding, but I don't think he used the ball very well. It was I think perhaps the coaches gave him a simplified
65% disposal efficiency for Berry.
Yeah. It was really grab it and boot it. Gain territory. And
Miller a 93% disposal efficiency with 29 disposals.
Yeah, and no one could tackle him on the day, as it was harshly confirmed in the last 30 seconds of play.
Hey, look, the moment his heart breaks is how I just felt when you said that.
Yeah, I know, and us Port supporters, we would have been messaging our other Port friends and whatnot. I mean, jumping up and down in our living rooms, obviously, in the moment that Berry kicks the goal, and had us celebrating the 2024 draft. Port hasn't actually been to, if you think about it. Just for us to Ralph Wiggum it, and have our hearts ripped out.
Yeah, when that high tackle happened against Rankin, which it's there. I hate it because it's a little bit incidental as well. But the arm over, and
I think it's very incidental. I think fucking Ollie Wines was grabbing the ball.
I thought it was against Drew though. I think Drew's arm kind of just ends up over his shoulder, and it's just and Rankin makes a bit of the contact.
I thought it was against Wines.
And it was against Drew.
I thought it was kind of harsh.
Yeah, it's one of those ones again. To the point of the other one I was talking about is he kind of gave, depending on the umpire's angle at any particular moment, it might have looked better or worse, and they missed those at times. But it wasn't the most egregious, but it was there enough that I'm like, I can't. Again, I try to be as objective as I can in the cold light of day, and I'm like, the umpire had a call to make there, and if they saw it from a certain,
we're preaching to a choir.
Yeah. But I did in that moment, I did have the Ralph Wiggum I'm in danger. When I saw Rank, I was just like, they're going to get the clearance here, and they've got fucking 30 seconds. Because we saw that
perfect. It's exactly what they could have asked for.
Yeah, free kick straight out of the center clear, and it's just
And in our regard, we're just well, in our regard, talking about learnings, there's a lot to dissect from that last 30 seconds from that ball up. Which typically, and this is the thing, right? It's a Port Adelaide team that had a lot of players playing their first showdowns and stuff like that, which can kind of
A lot of them played very well.
be
too.
and it can be some sort of reasoning for some of the ebbs and flows in the whole game. But that last 30 seconds, it was mistakes by people who have played plenty of showdowns. I guess, Jordan Sweet. He's played enough. He's played enough now. I mean, he's played enough football.
He's a Port fan, so he's been played enough in front of the TV like we do.
Just a lot of rushes of blood from players who should know better. When you're defending a lead and have 30 fucking seconds left on the clock, hitting the ball into space, and then not taking a tackle when you don't have prior opportunity to soak up time. Sweet, Bergman, even Butters. Like, I don't know why he chucked it on the boot. Obviously trying to just get it out of the area. But again, you can take the tackle. You've only just received the ball. Create a stoppage, get numbers around the footy. Easy to say from the comfort of a nice warm living room. But like Port Adelaide in the past, when we've had more senior teams, have been able to manage those final moments in close games. And just unfortunately, whether the senior players who should know better are feeling the pressure of having to do a bit more because the overall side is a bit younger, or just the arousal levels were just at fever pitch. And we had very low rotations for a long period. I think it was the last 5 minutes of that game. So maybe it was just
3 minutes to go. Ken Hinkley
oily rag
on the fact that we had one left and we didn't use it. We ended the game with 74 out of 75. So when Ken Hinkley was in the commentary, very fun commentary night. Like, not for the classic commentary, but just a simmering tension.
A lot of side mouth.
Yeah. When there was a fucking goal that was missed with Ken just justice. Rue's just like, you're meant to be impartial. He's like, yeah, it was justice. Like, basically saying my impartial opinion is that was justice. Like,
I think part of the yeah, and I didn't mind it. You got Dwayne there for who's play by play impartiality. But then, you got one guy going for the Crows and one guy kind of going for Port. At least, Port fans have been whinging for a long time that Ricciuto is the SA guy in any kind of football game, and we kind of have him to listen to. Last year, for example, he would have been the expert commentator for both showdowns, but now we've got a flavor on each side. And I saw people on both sides kind of commenting on it, but I was like, go for it.
At one point,
it's like you've got a bit of Crows Nation and Power Nation just in the in the broadcast. It's a bit of flavor of each.
No, it was very, very fun. And but there was just I think I brought that up and had a point, but then it's gone. But I did enjoy the commentary, that aspect of it. I don't know, like, and then Dwayne was doing his Dwayne things, as he does. I told you, like, there was a nosebleed section drop again at one point. When Pedler kicks the goal from 50, it's almost hit Colonel Light, and there was lots of those little ones. So, and then just the exasperation from
No Fear Aaliyah.
Yeah,
I think was one of them. Yeah, Berry buried it when Joe Berry kicked the goal. It's like, he had a list as long as the Nile ready to go for that game on the weekend.
It was good stuff from there. And but I really did enjoy the Ken versus Rue stuff, because it was like, I think they obviously get along, but I just think there was a little bit of just some of the both ways. Like, it was the justice thing, but then Rue brought up at one point, like, the team defense, the defensive setup that is very new for Port Adelaide and what they're doing to stop what the Crows are doing. And then Ken went, no, and I'm saying that as someone that was just the coach of Port Adelaide. Like, I think it's very good. So it's like, I felt like Ken felt like he almost had to step in and be like, Yeah, no, I'm okay with this too because Rue was kind of, I don't think that was the intention there from Rue, but it was interesting to listen to them talk about it. It is interesting with Ken being so fresh from a job, immediately commentating on the first Showdown since he was coach. It was refreshing. Probably the point to get into the lines now, and
Mm.
I think a good spot to start maybe this week is the defensive line. Obviously, they had to deal with 59 inside 50 entries, and I just wanted to bring it up. You kind of brought it up before about some what people were saying about maybe the Crows maybe deserving to win by more or whatever. Just wanted to bring up something, and some people don't like this, some people do like it. I find it just an interesting. When I bring up X score, and I want people listening, and thank you to the returning listeners, and thank you to the new listeners as well. When I bring up X score, it's never saying that it is an absolute metric to what's going on. It's just I like to bring it up as one analytical way of looking at the game and what we've seen. An X score for the game had Port's X score at 75.9. So it's right on the money as to what Port scored. Obviously, our real score being 75. Crow's X score, despite all the robberies and they should have won by more, was 67.7. So X score actually has Port winning by 8 points, which pains me a little bit, but it is interesting because Port
Yeah.
had more set. Crows actually forward. The way we defended the ground up the ground was reasonable, and even though there was it was just an overwhelming tsunami of action that happened at the back end of the third quarter that kind of finally franked itself into some goals for the Crows in a minute period. But beyond that, Port defended it a lot of inside 50 entries very well. Crows didn't get a whole lot of set shot joy. Maybe Toby Murray aside, more or less, and a couple of low opportunity. Those the Peddler one, Keys from 50 as well. There was a few that they had that they were low X score opportunities that they converted. So they beat their X score, and look that they the ultimate metric is if you win on the scoreboard on the day, X score doesn't matter. And that kind of to the point of what we're starting to talk about now. I think that shows that Port's defensive effort was reasonable, and it set us up for an opportunity to win the game, which is all we can ever ask of our defense. Give them an opportunity to win the game, and they got very, very close to doing it.
Yeah, they had to hold up in a lot of adversity, and I thought our structure was very good for a long portion of the night to soak up the pressure, but also, like you said, restrict their set shots apart from Marshall going to sleep, which is very costly. We all understand it. Again, much like the Hawthorn game, you know, you could pick apart so many things that quote unquote lost us the game. And, you know, I'm sure that'll be reviewed heavily with defensive coach Luke Webster. You got to be better than that. Like it's his, what is it, seventh game in defense. He's played pretty well considering his inexperience, but in a tight game, yeah, you need to do better, as particularly against a relative no name. To not to heap too much disrespect on Toby Murray. The kick from the pocket was fucking all you could ask for as your first goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the defense, obviously led by Alir, who was just fucking sensational and is now starting to get kind of the All-Australian discussion going a little bit. They discussed it on the broadcast as well. But I thought, like, of just on Alir, I thought his matchup against Thilthorpe, particularly when Tex went down, like just cutting off his leading lanes most of the time, like playing in front most of the time. He still did a bit of back shoulder stuff. But he found that perfect balance, and I thought it was great him playing in front for most of the game because a tight, contested, heated battle like it is in that particular game and in a finals like atmosphere, you are getting a lot of rushed ball, long ball, pressured ball into the inside 50, and it's generally unless you've got hapless pressure up the field, it's generally coming in. And if you're playing in front, you're in kind of best position because some of those kicks tend to drop short or they're misguided. And he soaked it up where his plan against Thilthorpe was amazing, I thought. And Thilthorpe had a couple of shots early. He is clearly off this year. I thought the free kick in the first quarter was kind of bullshit, considering that Aaliyah was playing in front and who's holding who type of thing. Chook Lotto. And then Thilthorpe's only goal came off of a bit of luck. And this is like their goals overall, like good from Rochelle to keep that in, but you're typically being coached to just reset and take it out. And I know Aaliyah and I think it was Lockie Jones was the other defender. They were clearly thinking that it was going to go over the line. And it's just a moment of brilliance that I'm sure, the Crows fans would have been cock-a-hoop. But yeah, Thilthorpe's game was fairly subdued. And then when, you take into account that 50 that you mentioned for Braden Cook, Jacob Ware, no one manned the mark up the field. So he had a relative, straightforward run to kick it inside 50. And even though he butchered the kick, and Aaliyah on that topic should have marked it, we didn't really put any pressure on the kick in the first place. And who knows if we actually had someone manning the mark properly up the field, because Jacob Ware was told to, move out. Perhaps it would have been a long high ball and, we just kill it. But yeah, a couple of calamitous errors that cost us. I feel like some of the goals we let through are fairly easily coachable to kind of negate next time. And, it sucks to have to talk about learning these, improving on these things next time. We'd love to get the victory and still learn those lessons. But I think by and large, our defense, considering some of the names on the sheet as well, and we have shorted up, which we've spoken about, I think, for 3 weeks straight now. DBJ had a good game. Bergman, I think, had a good game, took plenty of marks. Lockie Jones, again, he's playing good games while having kind of little amount of football. And then when you take into account, I thought Logan Evans had a fantastic game. He stood up really well for a young player, both in the contest, but also rebounding. Lyle keeps taking steps forward. I just love how organized we are. And just we're still now number one in the AFL without the football, and we're just still in the premiership window, largely thanks to our defense, which over the last couple of years, our defense has held up quite well, considering how much bleed there has been. But it's just, again, refreshing to see a much more organized outfit, not only in that back third, which we're focusing on now, but it's just that kind of structure up the field. And a couple of key statistics that do contribute to that number one without the footy. We're number one in the league for opposition inside 50s, funnily enough. So how many inside 50s your oppo gets. And in a game like this, we were outscored by 20. Opposition defensive 50 to inside 50. We're protecting transition, the number one in the league. We're also number two for opposition shots on goal and opposition points from turnover, which is a huge stat to protect. Number two in the league, opposition points from turnover means that we're giving up the second least amount of points from turnover in the competition at the moment. So I guess that paints a bit of a picture for kind of how well we're organized. And say 3 to 4 weeks ago, when we were seeing all of these stats come through, it was like, oh, but who have you played? And we're in a much better spot to really analyze it now that we've played some formidable sides. And I mean, I don't think Adelaide are in the best of form. They should be. They're a flag contender at the start of the year. But I feel that we're a third of the way through the season now. So we've got a good chunk of evidence to say that our defensive integrity is holding up and it looks well organized.
I mean, yeah, when you look at it, Adelaide finished top last year, Geelong finished second, and Hawthorn finished eighth. But we're looking at a team that was like a game out of fourth as well. Those performances against those teams over the past few weeks and continuing to have those good defensive efforts. I was just looking at Wheeler ratings, and based on their metrics, we're the fifth ranked defense in the competition, which is right there. Fremantle, the top-ranked defence, Sydney, then Collingwood, Hawthorn, and then Port Adelaide, Brisbane, and Geelong following us with St Kilda, and then Adelaide. So, yeah, we're right up there with some of the best defences in the competition at the moment based on the metrics they utilise. And,
without the footy, sorry to cut in, without the footy that I mentioned is the whole side, whereas you're talking about defense in a more
defense, just how our defense is, but I just you're right that now we've actually played some good teams that we can start looking at these stats and go, there's something fundamental that we can hold on to now as to what we're doing going forward. We were kind of, as we got through that period of easy games in quotations, it remains to be seen what kind of team North Melbourne are this year, because at times they look decent. But we've gotten through a period of games against some decent opposition, and the cumulative score in that period of games is actually plus 27. We've obviously beaten Geelong by 30 points and then lost the other two games by a combined margin of 3 points. So, and in all those games, you could look at it and find reasons that we absolutely deserve to win them. And it's all been done by frustrating and both an effort upfield, which we'll get to the midfield in a moment, but the defensive effort has been really, really good. Aaliyah was imperious. There was a couple of moments, and I want to bring it back to some social media commentary on the night regarding. There was one, I think it was Sam Power on Twitter, kind of put up like, Aaliyah's cost a couple of fucking goals, of not somewhat verbatim, and there's some replies that were a bit heated about, give him the respect for the game he's having, but it's kind of like and it seems like it's another Jamieism of the podcast, the walk and chew gum at the same time thing, is like we can talk about Aaliyah possibly helping us almost win the game, but there is, when you look at a couple of moments in the cold light of day, there were 2 goals directly scored from moments that you usually expect Aaliyah to be better in. There was one in the second quarter, I think, and I've got it noted here. And not long to go in the second quarter, leading to the Rochelle goal. He's kind of set up behind the contest at the drop of the ball, and he kind of just fumbles it forward. Like, he goes to collect the ball and he just fumbles it forward into Thilthorpe's arms, who then handballs out to Rochelle to score. Those ones are ones you just might either want, obviously, Aaliyah to take into his hands and then dish off a handball or something like that, or dispose of better. And he just kind of he gets first hands to the ball and just it kind of spills out from him. So that is a clanger. And obviously the missed mark you talked about as well was a mark that Aaliyah he gets 2 hands to the ball. It's not like he's at full stretch. It's actually right there, and kind of, for Aaliyah's skills, again, we expect him to take those.
It's a gimme.
To a goal. Yeah, so that's 2 goals. Similar to when we get to Mitch when we talk about the forward line. It's like he's almost there, but and Aaliyah going into the game was averaging 3.28 clangers a game. He had 6 for this game. So they were in a game of fine margins. Again, I'm not blaming Aaliyah again, listeners. We're bringing up these things as a constructive criticism way of talking about, in a game of fine margins, as good as Aaliyah was, and I think he helped save the game from being worse. He also, if you look at the game as close as it was, you want your leaders like Aaliyah to be, if he'd gone at average clangers, then maybe we win the game, is what I'm saying. So he didn't cost us the game, because I'd never put that on Aaliyah, because he puts his body on the line, plays another 100% game time game, and absolutely saves us time and time again. But he did have a couple more uncharacteristic clangers in the game than I'd expect from a player that we love as much as Aaliyah. And in a game of fine margins, unfortunately, you just sit there and go, God, if he just one of those collected better or marked better. And it's harsh, I know that, but it's like, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because it's like some people did see that, and I noted it on the game. I think I texted you about it as well. I was like, Aaliyah's had a couple of moments here that I don't expect from Aaliyah. He a poor collection and poor marking, and he had some great marking as well. It's just like that's the fine margin, these things, and it's kind of like goalkeepers in soccer. They could have 10 fucking miraculous saves, but if they let one go through their hands in the simplest of ways, they'll get blame. And that's the unfortunate part of these roles they play. They're thankless, and I certainly am cognizant of that. And I'm not blaming Aaliyah at all, but I just wanted to bring it up and just show, like, look, there was a couple of moments that people have keyed in on, and to your point about Corn's votes earlier, while I think it's unfair for Corns not to give him the votes, maybe he saw those moments a little bit more harshly than even I did.
It's much like the Hawthorn game for me. When destiny is in your own hands when the whips are cracking, like those mistakes are just part and parcel of football. Like, yeah,
Mm.
we deal with the facts. Like he gave up 2 goals, Marshall gave up 2 goals. Should we have been given more shots on goals? You know, like I said, should Durden have been given 2 more shots at goal to change, sliding doors,
Yeah.
butterfly effect of football? We were in front with 30 seconds to go. And
Mhm.
for a large portion of those 4 quarters of football that we played, Aaliyah played a fantastic game. So they are the facts. If, he didn't play as well as he did, potentially we're leaking a few more goals. And you want him to be attacking those balls. You don't want him to be sitting on his heels. But, the one where he fumbled inside 50 that bobbled out, if he's waiting for someone else to do it, then you're criticizing him about that. And I think what he's
Yeah.
shown over now 8 rounds is that he's going to go for it. And no football player is perfect 100% of the time. It's just unfortunate because, the general play goals, any opposition player on it any particular day could, stray it past the goal face and kick it behind, and you go, oh, thank fuck that didn't cost us. But just Crows capitalized. They were really good in that regard in those moments where we fucked up and they capitalized on it, which, like we said, their set shots were minimal. So capitalizing on those few mistakes was a large portion of how they were getting their goals, without analyzing every single one of their goals. I mean, I think it was a bit of a difference. I think, again, system in our defense is what held us up in good stead. But then I think system in offense also led to us having some fairly good looks at goal and helped with that conversion rate that you're talking about. And then we'll obviously get to, butterfly effects and sliding doors when we get to the forward line. But again, it's a 1-point game where destiny was in our own hands. And in a year where, what do you make of losses and what do you make of wins when, the AFL world is being turned upside down? Like, it's tough to take. But the facts are the facts. You can't hide from them. You just move forward and learn
Mhm.
from them.
Yeah. And ultimately, this is a game that, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it, where the teams are both at, the Crows are the ones that needed it more for their immediate needs, and we're a team that's are rebuilding and looking. And a few weeks ago, we were expecting this to be probably the predictions would have been a few weeks ago going into the Hawthorn game, 6-goal loss is what we would have been thinking. We obviously got a lot closer, and we were very, very close on paper. We were thinking it was a lot closer going into it, and the result kind of bore that out. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the likes of Logan Evans and the likes of Bergman as well. I think there's some very, very able and very, very good performances back there. Guys that are building nicely in the last few weeks. By and large, really the only one you can really key in on is Todd Marshall having a disappointing week after his last performance was a good one against Hawthorn. Obviously, he missed last week with gastro. Who knows how? I think he was deemed fit to play, but how the lingering effects of a flu or a gastro or anything like that are just to how your body works, and how your lethargy that you might feel in different moments. Who knows? I'm sure the
Anyone
team
who's
was
been
very,
to
very
Bali would understand.
I haven't myself, but I know that I know you've been. Actually, I'm pretty sure you've been.
I
I'm not
certainly have.
remembering correctly.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
more than once. Yeah.
and you've experienced
And
Bali
it'll get you.
firsthand. Yeah. And I assume those effects linger for at least a week. So, who knows how he was? I'm going to give him. I'm not going to
Josh
give him.
Carr
I'm
gave
not
him a
going.
bit of an out in the presser. And
Say a
also
mulligan.
mentioned, like, we chucked him around a bit because obviously Taylor Walker went down and the matchups kind of got thrown off a little bit. I think Kari was it was a bit of that outside communication to the world and the fans and stuff versus what they're probably discussing behind closed doors is a bit different. I think he was kind of just in the public eye giving his player an out, but would they, Todd Marshall's a senior player and albeit you're playing in a new position. But as a senior player, you got to play your position. You can't. Yeah, I always say if you're picked in the defense, you defend first. That's your role first and foremost. And he's obviously been moved back there for an offensive type of weapon. And look, his intercept marking was phenomenal against Hawthorn. So maybe it is a mulligan. I don't know. Like you said, he got picked to play, so you have to execute on the night. And it's just the 2 goals were a bit uncompetitive, I would say. So whether you're struggling with the after effects of gastro or not, don't just fucking compete. Like next time you're in those positions, just do better. Again, not going to hang him out to dry. He is early in his defensive career. He is still a senior player that you kind of have to bridge the gap a little bit quicker than, say a Josh Life, for example, who isn't doing a whole heck of a lot wrong, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it'll be see how Toddy goes this week, and then I'll my judgment will go forward from there. If we start seeing a setting in of a malaise, then that's where you'll make a decision. But based off of 1 week, I'm not going to get too concerned yet. Again, in a game that his performance, while quiet, wasn't the defining aspect of the game at all. So you can't put anything down to him more or less, apart from maybe just compete better with Toby Murray in a couple of moments. And again, showdowns just have the weird thing where a guy like fucking Toby Murray pops up with 2 goals in 2 minutes. That just unfortunately happens in showdowns, and sometimes it's for us, sometimes it's against us. So the mids is an interesting area. I want to start with one. Jason Horne-Francis, I think, obviously had a good game, not a great game. He was impacted early he was getting rub downs early, and then he got smashed in the back by Riley Thilthorpe in a 50-50 contest. Bad about it, but yeah, I look at that as one. I think he's still actually, when you look at his stats, I'm sure we'll look at him a little bit later, but he actually had a reasonable game and a few stats. But he just didn't get as much of the ball as we would have hoped up based on his last couple of weeks. And, in a tight game, Jason Horne-Francis again with maybe 5 or 6 more disposals on top of his 20 that he had, maybe breaks the lines. But I think he had a few real good game-winning moments. And overall, I think our midfield really just fell apart in one crucial area of the game and didn't handle the pressure in a period of play. And that was the game-defining period where we gave up 5 goals. We couldn't get any control in the middle. The time and forward half game was all leaning one way for the Crows. It was the only first time in a few weeks, even going all the way back before St Kilda, really. I think I actually said on Twitter, it's the first time since West Coast that I felt that beaten in a period of play. Was what the Crows did to us in that third quarter. And it was just for a midfield I've been pretty happy with in the last few weeks. It was a little bit of regression for a moment, but ultimately I think there's learnings to be had from that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the heat got turned up, and we just fell into some old habits a little bit, I think. More so with trying to negate what was happening to us, if we could get our hands on the ball, that is. And old habits do die hard, as they say. But it is also hard to be heavily critical because, much like a lot of the portions of this game, is we did a lot right. And, Jordan Sweet was getting, particularly in the first half, hit outs to advantage, was killing McAndrew. And then McAndrew kind of leveled that up a little bit as the game wore on. Although I think Sweet still played a fantastic game overall. There were aspects, clearance and stuff like that. And contested possession ended up, fairly even. We were down, but it, somewhat negligible overall. And you mentioned Horne-Francis. He finished equal first for Port Adelaide with 7 clearances. It will be interesting if we ever hear like that. There was a lot of feedback from the supporter base to say that he kind of looked a bit ginger for portions of the game and went quiet on a few occasions, but will we ever know if there was more to that? It depends if it is exacerbated in the games to come, or if it was just a really bad corky that kind of stuck with him for the whole game and he couldn't really push through to that nth degree that perhaps gets us
Mhm.
in front, has that flow on effect across the game, because he still had some awesome moments throughout the game. It was just,
Right
the
up until the
heights
end.
that we saw he didn't quite reach
Yeah.
from the last couple of
He had
weeks.
some really nice kicks inside 50 even in the fourth quarter. So like he was I know when I was watching the replay, when I watched the game, I thought, oh, he's restricted. I was, obviously on a Friday night watching a showdown. I was having a few beers because it's the only way I can mentally deal with it because I'm a 38-year-old man with sports fandom issues. But so I remember on the night I was thinking, oh no, he was restricted. But in watching the game, like there was moments where you saw a ability. It's like by the time the game finished out, he was still actually having a real impact on clearance and moving reasonably well. I just wonder if, like you said, in moments just where maybe the game slowed down a little bit, and those that swelling or whatever that can happen in those moments just got the better of him because when that pain's there, sometimes you can work through it in moments, and but not that I've been a high level athlete, but I've worked some physical work in my life, and sometimes you get a knock and it's sore, but then when you need to go, you go. But then in the interim moments, you can be a little bit restricted, and it's also like that's those little those little tiny little moments in the game, in a game as tight as this, where he maybe just wasn't 100% to get to the ball or the drop of the
Mm,
ball or clearing. And he was um, equal number one clearance player on the ground, and in particular, his clearance work was very very much his center clearance work was by far best on field for us, which is very very um, good to see as I continued hitting that. I don't have a klaxon for it yet. I do need to make one, but I do want to just bring up what the stat was, the CBAs for the game, and I'm just scrolling across to it now because I'm using a database. So I keep clicking on different things, but yeah, horne-francis was at 73% of CBAs. Drew was at 77. Butters at 92. But the top guys, Wines found himself at 58% as well. The ruck mix was interesting this one for CBAs because it's just been kind of a obviously stoppage is different as well, but just as a metric for seeing how they're using them. But the last couple of weeks has been Sweet and Vicentini have basically been 50-50 at the CBA ruck hitouts, and this week it was 81 to Sweet and only 19 to Vicentini. So they must have keyed in on that matchup against McAndrew and liked what they were seeing from there.
mm,
But obviously McAndrew actually worked his way into the game, so whether circuit breaker there at some point, I'm not sure, but I think they actually got that reasonably right. It's just the Crows kind of just franked a lot of momentum in a period of play where we were just slightly off. I know Butters, they kind of mentioned at one point in the commentary towards the back end of the third quarter, he'd only had 4 touches in the third
yeah.
quarter. It's just like we just couldn't get in that period or in that fourth quarter, we just couldn't get the right guys around the ball enough at the contest. Willem
Mm,
Drew only had the 4 clearances, which is a bit down in the last couple of weeks for him, though I still think Drew had a great game, or a reasonable game, had some nice inside 50s and kind of did some of those things that the traditional people that have an outside view of Drew don't see some of the things he does, but he does some really nice forward 50 entries and stuff like that. But he still was down a little bit in his output in the last few weeks, and it's just again those fine margins. We didn't quite get those magic, like enough magical moments out of the key midfield horses. I think outside Ollie Wines, I think Ollie Wines had a fucking fantastic game. He's the pick of the bunch for me out of the mids.
Ollie, yeah. Particularly when you see his time on ground as well. They're obviously using him in a real impact sense, because I don't think he's played any more than maybe 70% game time since he's been back, which is really interesting. Uh, I'd have to go back and check that, but I would do kind of check it all the time, just due to the fact that how he's come back into the side. And I mean, his first game was at around 50% of game time he played against Richmond.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, Ollie Wines, you talk about experience and experience in big games. Ollie Wines has definitely been around the block himself, and yeah, perhaps we could have used him a bit more. But it could very well be a fitness management plan that is dictating kind of his time on ground percentage. I know there's people that don't kind of agree with that, but that just may be the reality. Excuse me. Yeah, talk about Drew, like that intercept mark that he should have taken in the first quarter, which would have given us a great look to go 4 goals up to nothing. And then that's their only goal for the quarter. So again, we're splitting hairs. There's so many moments in a game of football, but something that I forgot to mention in the whole defensive chat, and I guess the midfield contributes to this as well. Like, yeah, the Crows kicked 1 goal for a quarter. I think they're at 22 points for their first half. It's their lowest first half total in about 2 years. So again, that kind of, and we played the Crows twice every, however many times since then. We played them twice every year is what I was getting at. But yeah, since 2024, it's their lowest score for a half. So again, defensive integrity, midfield and defensive thirds. We're doing some stuff right. And we were doing some stuff quite right in this game. Although Crows won that second quarter, they've still held to their lowest first half score, like I said. But yeah, Drew, just would love that mark again because we were out and it was basically, get a shot on goal inside 50 and we were converting, which I'm pretty sure Georgiades said in a press conference last week, that our set shot conversion is actually up when people want to talk about, inaccuracy in front of goal and whatnot. So, but getting back to the midfield, I thought Jacob Ware played a great game. It seemed that, him and McKinlay are kind of taking turns a little bit each week. It seemed that Jacob Ware had a bit more of an attacking penchant to his game, and McKinlay's first showdown, maybe there's a bit of nerves, a lot of heat in the kitchen. Although there was a lot of heat in the kitchen against Hawthorn away under the lid. So, a bit of inconsistency there. But I thought Ware was good, but I thought that he was typically matched up on Cook for most of the game. And there was just a few moments where, obviously, the final moment, he got off the leash a little bit. But then there was a couple of other moments throughout the game where he just gave him a bit too much rope. But overall, I think one of his better games for the club. And it's actually Jacob Ware's first showdown, but he's obviously a more mature player, footballer. So, involved in scores. I think he had the kick inside 50 that ended up with the Whitlock mark, if I remember correctly, right at the end there. So,
the one that Whitlock's set up and then
ran forward.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. When we get to the forward line in particular. But, a very, very good little sequence there. That one was obviously being highlighted with which we'll mention a little bit more in a bit. But Whitlock obviously getting the round 8 Rising Star nomination. But back to the midfield. I wanted to bring it back just for a moment because I did just scroll back through because my notes app on my computer, I can find my previous review notes pretty quickly. And Wines hasn't had any more than 68% time on ground in any game that he's played this year. It's been a mixture of, obviously, the Richmond game, it was, in the 50s, I think, but the last few games it's been 68 or 66% time on ground. There is clearly a time, managed minutes kind of factor to how they're utilizing him. But you're not noticing it on fit. Like when you're watching a game, you're just like, Wines is always present. It's how it feels, which goes to show the impact he's having. And, his disposal efficiency, again, is sneakily good. He obviously kicks a goal in the game as well. And just he's the one that works out the stoppage situation for the Berry goal at the back end there as well. He's the one that dishes out the handball, and it's highlighted just how he's working around the stoppage and being able to get away from his immediate kind of opposition to get out the way of the stoppage and get some free hand. The ball is utilized. So Wines, I think, is being drastically underrated by the wider AFL world. There's someone, I think it was a tweet somewhere I saw on Twitter, just one of those shithouse accounts that tweets dumb shit talking about how did Ollie Wines win his Brownlow medal, and it's just like he's just such an underappreciated player, and in particular the last few years. We've been talking about it a lot. His disposal efficiency has been reasonable, and he's doing a lot of the other work as well and leading that midfield really, really well. You talked about it a few weeks ago. I don't want to see a midfield without Ollie Wines while he's fit and playing the way he's going. And I think that continues. We don't even get close in this game without him, which, speaks to maybe the fact that Butters had a great game, but was maybe just his influence is nullified at times. Horne-Francis was maybe a little bit sore, as we just talked about, and Drew was, it was a tight game that Ollie Wines was able to stand up as the veteran and be the kind of leader and exactly what we needed in this game to be. If we do win this game off that Berry goal, then Wines is very, very much one of the heroes of the game, and he, regardless of the way it finished, he's the hero of the game in the midfield for me. I just really, really appreciate his efforts, and he's having a really, really good season since coming back from that suspension, and then obviously the working his way back into the side, which is that controversy's past, the minor controversy that it was. I think he was fantastic in this game, and I like that you brought up Ware could have easily had 2 goals. The one that obviously sockets off and hits the post, and then he snaps one that's a reasonable, a low percentage chance, but a reasonable shot from him, and it just fades across. And it's just like, again, game of fine margins. You go if you just convert one of those, sliding doors all being the same otherwise. Yeah, it's like, to your point, Ware kind of had a little bit more attacking intent in this game. McKinlay was up there in the pressure acts, so he was kind of, again, to your point about the defensive role, maybe a little bit more. He was one of the top pressure act players for us. So, yeah, those guys have
took a couple of nice marks too.
Yeah, and had a couple of good connective tissue little moments where he's involved in handballs or, and looks just a little bit more settled again after the deer and headlights stuff that we were talking about a month back now. Yeah, I'm really, really kind of settled with those guys being in the side. There's still, they're probably only a week or two of bad games away from the question being asked if Will Lorenz and co still keep playing well, because they're still kind of that weird position where.
And that midfield unit for the Maggies did play well. I had a look at the stats yesterday. I think Lorenz got 40 posies.
Yeah, and shout out to the Maggies winning the Sandful Showdown, which has been something we've kind of been spanked in Sandful Showdowns recently, as well as losing the AFL one. So it's good to see the bottom, the reserve, so to speak, pick up and start playing better, and then rising tide lifts the ship in the AFL side as well. But I'm okay with where we're at in the wing positions as well. Ware and McKinlay are doing something. They've got polish to the game. They've got polish to add to the game, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. When I'm watching the replay, I was like, there was a discussion to be had earlier on, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. But perhaps they're clearly being given, perhaps clearly is a bit of an oxymoron, but perhaps they're being given certain roles on each particular week. And obviously we're not privy to those in great detail. We just kind of watch the game and look at the stats and see what happened. So, and I'm kind of with you. It's like, unless there is a consistent trend of kind of poor form, then perhaps that's when the Lorenzes of the world, or maybe a Jack Watkins, gets another look in. But I think the wing position is a bit of an enigma at times, and I think they're both taking turns in having good weeks and clearly contributing to our overall performance. So I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater after 1 week. It'd have to be some consistent poor form, like I said, to repeat myself. I messaged you about First Crack last night, and for those Port Adelaide fans that haven't seen it or whatnot, there was something it was quite surprising to actually get a good rap on First Crack for once, and because we're either not getting spoken about, or we're making the worst move in the history of football by putting Josh Lyon on Nick Watson a couple of weeks ago. But it was actually David.
Game.
Don't count for anything at all. But funnily enough, Kingy, who fucking went off the handle with that one, brought up our kicks inside 50. And again, this is the midfield and kind of our offensive integrity as opposed to our defensive integrity. And mentioned that we have 3 of the best 12 kickers inside 50. So that would come down to retention rate, hitting up targets. And funnily enough, Jace Burgoyne is the number one kick inside
I was
50
gonna
in the
say
league.
inside 50s to marks is what the metric they were
Yes.
talking about.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for extending it. And I think it was Zach Butters in the top 10, and then JHF, number 12 in the league. So
Yeah. Butters was 4. So
four,
top, you know,
yeah.
2 players
So
in the top
so
5.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that paints another picture of game plan and lowering
Remember the
our
can't play
eyes. Not
5 there, by the way.
there, the can't play 5. Yeah, have got yeah. He's the lead singer. Or maybe Jacob Ware's the lead singer. This week, but oh yeah, I know all the apart from McKinley who had a down game. Yeah, can't play 5. Held their held their own this week, and it's almost at the point where the can't play. We should just scrap it because they've all warmed into the season and all finding their ways to contribute. Funnily enough, when you make broad sweeping comments after 3 fucking rounds of football, yeah, once people get into their work, it can be proven premature. But anyway, yeah, just shifting game plans. Yeah, another aspect where I think a lot of Port Adelaide fans, although it's heartbreaking to lose this game in the fashion that we did, there was so much positivity, particularly more so on Saturday. Everyone was hurting a bit on Friday night, but even still, a lot of positivity to come out of the game overall across the weekend. And I think it's aspects like this when we talk about what we do without the footy and where we stand in the competition, our defensive structure and setup, but then, yeah, our offensive strategy in the fact that we're getting good output from 3 of our midfielders kicking the ball inside 50 to mark, like you said. Just the overall aspect of just looking for the best options and, not relying on chance as much as we were in the past, perhaps. And that's like what I said. It was funny watching the replay and watching the Crows rack up inside 50 after inside 50, bombing it long, and them kind of having their Mountain Riley Thilthorpe, even though they were kind of not hitting up some of his genuine leads, which could have given them an edge or more of an edge on the contest. But yeah, it was quite interesting. Like, that is a kind of sliding doors moment in itself. And it's like, where has Matthew Nix got his game plan from and how do they want to execute, versus our evolving game day setup across the lines and that cohesion. I just thought it was really interesting to sit back and look at it that way. Our efficiency at score in this game was amazing. To have less than 40 inside 50s and to put up nearly a winning score is a credit to what we're aiming for.
Yeah. It's 12 marks inside 50 to their 8. Like, there's not that, those numbers shouldn't exist if you've lost inside 50s by minus 20 in the realm of 59 to 39. It's and another thing they brought up in first crack was kind of like speed of ball movement, which is still like I want a champion data account so I can fucking see the numbers and understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
Joey Montano on first crack was kind of talking about just the speed of ball movement and more or less, we don't have the raw data of what they're looking at, but the ethos that Port Adelaide are playing with. And he kind of mentioned the line. He said, if you see it and like it, you pull the trigger. And it's like, that's a ethos that we didn't have under Ken. And it's something that go back to what Jason horne-francis said a few weeks ago. He said there's a little bit more license to use our ingenuity on field. And you can kind of see that in how we're playing. I liked another thing that Joey Montano said. It's like making mistakes, being aggressive is going to ultimately produce more results than making mistakes while you're trying it. Because we had, particularly in the latter period, the fall of the Roman Empire period, so to speak, of the Ken Hinkley era, where things started crumbling away and falling apart. Our some of that conservative nature at times, particularly last year, when I've talked about it time and time again in the last 18 months, the handballing in triangles and somehow ending up backwards and inviting pressure on ourselves because we were being conservative, ultimately just led to turnover and goals against anyway. If we're making being aggressive and having the ingenuity and disposal that we've shown at times, plenty of times recently, to actually, again, our cumulative score over the last few weeks has been very, very positive, and we've lost to two top 8 teams from last year by a total of 3 points. Being aggressive has ultimately led us to getting closer to results that we want, and just not being conservative. In if you're gonna make mistakes being aggressive, then rather than being conservative, is a really, really good point I thought that they brought up. I think you can see that in team ethos, and particularly obviously that's a very, very midfield orientated stat, is because that's all that transition from backline to forward line.
I thought it was a salient point too. I think I think last year it was just too aggressive, if you know what I mean. Like, we were still targeting the corridor last year, but it was like target it at all costs rather than, like you said, if the option's there, pull the trigger. But we have the balance enough this year to go, if it's not there, maybe control the ball, and be smarter about how we're shifting it, while not sitting on our heels. Just don't play a kamikaze style of football, attacking the corridor at all costs, because it got a bit ridiculous last year, and we were so high on turnover, and obviously when you're turning it over in the corridor, you're going to hemorrhage score, which we did. And I mean, another aspect of this 3-game run that we've just gone through is we had the same teams in a 3-game run. It wasn't the exact same sequence, but the same teams in a 3-game run last year, and just got absolutely fucking polar. I think the cumulative total was over 200 points. So, like, I guess that in a vacuum signals progression, because the teams that we played aren't too different.
I thought you could do the nutshell thing. Look, it's me in a nutshell.
Me in a nutshell, yeah, exactly. As opposed to a glass case of some emotion, which comes later in the game, of course, like you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm obviously enjoying those aspects that we actually got some decent analysis on first crack, which was lovely. And to those who've already seen it, apologize. But it's pretty important to reiterate, I feel, because there are all these little indicators that suggest we're on the right track. And now, a third of the way in the season, you can leverage it up against who we've played more so than earlier in the year, which is nice to see. And we're still yet to talk about the forward line, but moving into the upcoming game this Friday, and even next week, it fills me with a lot more hope that we're at least going to be competitive. You might not necessarily expect to win, but I feel like we know what we're going to get, and we're playing a particular brand of football that is stacking up. Apart from some moments from some inexperience, or a bit of structural breakdown, because perhaps everyone's still sinking in what we want to do. But when you're doing it for Dougie, it all comes out in the wash.
Yeah. Teach me how to draft Dougie. I'm sure maybe later in the week we can touch on the fucking dumbassery of those rules. Finally, because we haven't had a chance to yet. But let's move to the forward line. It's a game that we obviously see once again. We can start with our main forward in Mitch Georgiades. 3 goals, 3. Once again, he misses probably 2 chances that I call gold chances, and I think he has a great game. He has a great game. His forward craft, his imperious kind of nature that makes him like the opposition defense have to be accountable, and still not be able to do a whole lot about him when our forward 50 entry is working. And a shout out back to the midfield and that Jace Burgoyne point about him being the number one kick inside 50 to generating a mark. I think David King actually said basically the stats are going out of this week was every 1 in every 2 Jace Burgoyne kicks inside 50 end up in a mark. Insane numbers. The first Mitch Georgiades goal of the game. And because I watched the replay after I'd seen the first crack segment, you actually see Mitch Georgiades and Chase Burgoyne celebrate together, and like Mitch Georgiades makes a point to celebrate with him after. So kind of speaks to the team's understanding of what Chase Burgoyne is doing as well. But yeah, Mitch Georgiades has an almost game-winning performance again. And I sit there and go, this isn't me saying he cost us the game. And I want people to be really, really understanding of me being like, I think he's an absolute plus point to the game. But
we just want that bag.
These are the fine margins in the game this year. And it's Mitch Georgiades has missed chances to win the game for us this year, and that's my entire criticism is only because I see him as burgeoning as one of the top 3 to 4 forwards in the competition, and however you rank those is like once you get to the top 3 or 4 forwards in the competition, it's often just bias at that point because there's always a group of just sensational forwards. But he's right outside of that for me at the moment. He is having the 4th most shots on goal in a game this year. He's averaging 5.3 shots on goal a game. But his goals, so basically Ben King is actually only, I think, 8th or 9th in the competition for shots on goal, but he's leading the Coleman at the moment, right? So you kind of look at that and go Ben King, and look, Ben King's just having an insane period in front of goal. But again, that's kind of the point I'm making, right? Is like Ben King's having having that impact on the goal, the scoring. And in particular, as far as shots on goal go for forwards in the competition, Mitch Georgiades is one of the he's only had 3 shots from general play, which all came in the Geelong game last week. Before that, he hadn't even had a shot from general play. The likes of Jack Gunston, Jeremy Cameron, and double digit. Curno's had 11 shots from general play. Jeremy Cameron's had 19. Jack Gunston's had 15. So their shots on goal per game average is being franked by a lot of general play shots on goal as well. Mitch Georgiades has only had 3. He converted one of them last week. The other 2 were actually pretty tough chances. So we're not going to make any bones of that. But he's had 39 set shots this year. He's converted 20 of them. So he's basically going at 50% from set shots. And if you look at where those set shots have come from and the ones he's converted, he's actually lucky he's converting the ones that are repeatedly brought up in commentary at this point. Make the hard look easy and the easy look hard. His X score is reasonable at the moment, only because he's converting the tough ones. And again, in this game, I look at there's a couple of chances. That one in the 4th quarter, they absolutely fucking shanked, was horrible. The one earlier in the game was just one of those ones he just faded left, I think, actually. Either way, he just faded it slightly, and it's just...
And then one from the boundary.
I think he's one of our best players in the field in this game, based on his forward impact and the fact that what he's doing for our forward structure is incredible. And he still kicks the 3 goals and has some great impact on the game. But I'm critical in this moment only because I see one of the best forwards in the competition right in front of my eyes, and it's just like the results aren't quite there. It's just like, Mitch, I want you to take that next step because I love you so much, and I can see it right there. It's just like, fucking grasp it, Mitch. You're so close to tearing this competition to pieces because he's fucking 4th. I think he's 4th in the Coleman right now.
He's equal 5th.
Yeah.
With
Norton, Aaron Norton, obviously. But Ben King, as I said, is averaging almost a shot a goal a game less and has 7 goals ahead of Mitch. So, and Jack Gunston and Jeremy Cameron are ahead slightly. Nick Larkey on Mitch, just to read out, Mitch on 21, Larkey 22, Jeremy Cameron 23, Gunston 24, Ben King 28. He's not that far. And that's the thing is like, actually why I'm bringing it up is like, if he just converts, because we could look at it and go, he's had a lot of chances that are simple in the last 8 weeks. If he converts 1 a game, he's leading the Coleman. That's the fine margins. And again, but then if he misses
just like last year,
but the thing I say I'm at the point now is like the hard ones we now recognize as Mitch can do that. So he needs to convert the easy ones to actually take that next step. Because if he keeps doing the hard ones, because these other guys actually do the hard ones fairly often as well. So we can't say it's just a Mitch thing. It's like these other guys are very, very talented at converting from the boundary or doing the ones around the corner or whatever. They find a way to score pretty consistently from areas on the field. I just want Mitch, but again, he didn't lose us the game or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying, but it's just like he was so close in this game to being an absolute game winner because he kicks 3 goals, 3. He clearly gets the opportunities. He just, again, was just slightly off it in the conversion and a couple of opportunities. But again, our forward line structure is working to Mitch's to give Mitch absolute credit. Our forward line structure is entirely centered around the fact that he is such a almost unicorn of an athlete, and it's working really, really well for everyone around him now as well.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned the lack of general play scores from him, but it probably comes down to like the fact that he's just getting that many marks inside 50. Like he's number one in the league for marks inside 50 and marks on the lead. He's just like head and shoulders and shoulders and shoulders above the second place forward in that particular statistic. It's like, yeah, you're not getting him in general play because you just keep fucking marking him. You just keep presenting and like having 3 of the best 12 kicks to mark inside 50. You're just getting hit up all the time. But yeah, those 2 shots on goal in the fourth quarter where they were basically carbon copies of one another. And one he kicked, and then the other one I don't know if you noticed in replay, but he was going through his routine, and he does get a bit close to the man on the mark at times, which was mentioned in commentary, but he actually then starts running towards the behind section that he ends up kicking it into. So it's like he actually kicked it where he was facing. He just, at that moment in the run-up, started facing the wrong way. And obviously he's missed goals in slightly different, dropping it on the inside of his boot, leaning back. We've spoken about the different aspects. There's just clearly on occasion that brief breakdown in psyche that distracts him from the thing that gets him equal 5th in the Coleman, that is the difference, like you said, between him being on 21 goals versus potentially, 30 at this point in the season. I agree, him being being one of the best on ground, 6 shots on goal. Like, yeah, you just had a phenomenal game. You're eating the defenders for breakfast. I think, Borlase and who else did they have? Worrell. So who had their moments. But when it came to one-on-one, when it came to matchups, like, Mitch just had the wood over him. And with our ball use,
he also had
moving forward,
5 frees called against him.
For shit, really? Yeah.
Yeah, 5 frees against. And I don't know if you noticed on replays, it just felt like he fucking got the 50-50 calls went against him at times. But yeah, so a quarter of the frees that went against us were Mitch. And that goes to show the impact he's having. If you look at if you look at 6 marks, 3 goals, 3, 6 marks inside 50, 3 goals, 3, the impact he's having. And then in the 5 frees against, it's like that shows the, and I'm bringing up the 5 frees against as a positive, though it sucks that he's getting those called against him because he doesn't win a single free in this game. By the way, it's 0 goals for 0 frees for 5 against. It shows the.
I think the unrealistic attempt one. Sorry, I was just going to say that I think Jack Whitlock in the third quarter inadvertently makes Mitch give up an unrealistic attempt free kick. Which I think is harsh, like you're saying, because I think if Jack Whitlock didn't come across the front, Mitch is at least getting hands on it. It was a bit of an early attempt at the specky because he's kind of on his way down once the ball gets there. But if Jack Whitlock doesn't come across the front, then the ball's going into Mitch's hands. So is it really an unrealistic attempt? Like, again, the fine margins but heaven forbid the Crows got fucking, robbed, although they won the game. Again, we could go through the fucking whole game if you want. Or you could just shut up and enjoy the win. Don't go there. I mean, we're talking about we're wanting Mitch to kick a bag as well and be number 1 in the Coleman race, but I'm waiting for the Durden bag. And he's kicked 2 goals, 1. He's had 1 direct goal assist. And like I said, I feel like he got robbed of 2 shots on goal in the third quarter when talking about Borlase, taking the tackle on and dropping it, and the umpire calling play on, which was inside 50 for Port Adelaide. And then the mark from Drew on the boundary kicking it inboard. And Durden marked the ball, but it was called not 15. And then Dwayne in commentary said Moraes was 13 meters and Durden was 15, but the ump called play on. And I kind of see it that way too. Like, I swear you see shorter kicks being paid. What's that?
I said Dwayne actually very, very diplomatically, possibly, and maybe favorably said Durden was 16. I thought
Yeah, did he? Yeah, okay, yeah. That's what I mean. Like, I swear you see shorter ones being paid, and I feel like Drew was pretty hard up against the boundary, and again, 2 shots on goal, gone begging. Never hear of them this week. I can guarantee you.
the not 15 thing
But
all
what?
the year this year has done my head in. Like, there's just no metric for it, and it's just umpires interpretation
It's vibes.
where they are.
Yeah.
It's all like, fucking moving lines, and it's I find it a weird area that they keyed in on last year, and it seems to have continued this year. But anyway, go ahead.
No, yeah, that was basically it. I'm just, again, no surprise that we're pleased with how Durden is tracking since bringing him to our football club. He's kicked another 2 goals. Yeah, but I think he's got a bag in him as well as a small forward. Like, on top of doing defensive roles on opposition rebounding defenders, he's hitting the scoreboard every single fucking week, and looks lively. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day that he inevitably gets his bag. Probably shouldn't go any further, but to celebrate Jack Whitlock's Rising Star nomination, you touched on it just before, and that was announced not long, before we started recording. But I feel like it's been coming. For a young forward to be contributing in regularity like he is, and I think I saw before he has 10 goals for the season, which probably undersells the impact that he is actually having in our forward line. But yeah, congratulations to him. I think it's well deserved. Obviously, being a forward and the stats not looking pretty will have opposition fans kind of waxing lyrical. But I don't give a fuck. I think he definitely deserves the nomination. He's probably not going to win the thing, but it's just a good check. Good tick in the checkbox as to your progression in the league. When coming into the season, Lukosius, not really knowing what Marshall was going to be, although that got solidified as we drew closer to the season. Didn't really know what to expect from Jack, but he's seriously impressed, and also part of the reason why we could have, should have, or would have won this game.
Yeah. I think it's partly like Whitlock actually had some really, really nice moments in this game. Obviously, that set up for his goal in the 4th quarter. The fact he takes the mark outside 50, delivers it to Ware, and then his forward craft. And it was very, very much highlighted in trying to think 360 or something I was watching, or maybe it was just a replay. They just kind of highlighted in the replay just him floating forward and taking part in the forward 50 contest to take the mark and kick the goal. So yeah, I think his body of work to this point, in maybe a week that they didn't have, it's just like that's part of the Rising Star Award. Is sometimes there's a player that had a body of work and they would just reward them with a nomination eventually, and that is a reward for the body of work Whitlock has put in this year so far, and absolutely deserved. And he's building every week. His set up for Durden for one of his goals, by the way, very, very good. So he's had some very, very good moments in this game that went quite underrated. It was interesting you brought up Lukosius just before. I just thought I'd just bring this up. Wheeler ratings, player ratings for the season so far has Butters first, horne-francis second, Elia third, Sweet fourth, Drew fifth, and Jack Lukosius sixth as our highest rated players for the year. So, people, it was often forgotten in commentary that Lukosius is one of the players missing for us, and some people will have their reasons for that, but Lukosius,
that's amazing.
In player ratings for games is ahead of the likes of Ollie Wines, Kane Farrell, Mitch Georgiades, et cetera, et cetera. I think,
and that he's missed games as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's his player rating for the games he's played, obviously, but
average player rating. Yeah,
the impact he's having on those games, and we tried to talk about it at times because there is a little bit of a rising tide of anti-Lukosius sentiment out there, and I understand it's a certain aspect.
It's the
I think it
Westhoff
goes
shit all
totally
over again.
Yeah. His impact on the games he played this year was actually, recognized. I think actually I looked at last week. I think Willem Drew has taken over in the last couple of weeks for fifth spot, but look, he was actually top 5 a couple of weeks ago still. So, I just wanted to bring that up as someone who's missing from our forward line, since you just kind of brought it up. But the one more before you do get to segments, and obviously he had an almost game-winning moment. Joe Berry, his 2 goals, he has 11 disposals, kicks 2 goals. His first goal, obviously his second goal that we thought had won the game for us, incredible. Good again, just his game intelligence. He was involved in a lot of connective tissue stuff throughout the game that I really, really appreciated. But of course, the fourth quarter, he's franked that with his first goal, a really, really good mark. He read the ball well and kind of positioned himself to take it really, really well. Almost felt like Peter Burgoyne in the fucking final against Collingwood a few years ago. Fucking 25 years ago.
Yeah, I actually, when he took the mark, I looked at my phone, and then all of a sudden the goal's been kicked, and then on replay, that's it. Yeah, now that you say that, I'm like, fuck, that got close.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
fucking
Nick
did it,
Revolt,
so,
Heath Shaw type stuff. Yeah, good thing he
he's
did
come
the
up on
job.
me like a librarian. Yeah, but his positioning off the stoppage for that goal that should have won us the game was really, really good, and an incredible finish. Shout out to our podcast, just a little tap on the back. We did talk about Berry. We'd love to have Berry have a moment, and he did have his moment. It didn't end up in the result we want, but he had his moment. He had a couple of them, really, but that moment, he got to celebrate that, and that's something that hopefully he can take home with him, even though the result's probably a bit raw for the team after the night.
He did
had that
his job
celebration.
in those 2 particular moments, and in that
He stood
one
up and
very particular moment.
40 seconds to go in a showdown. He gets a handball from Ollie Wines in a relatively tough position to finish, but one that you've kind of been drafted to be that kind of guy, and you were that guy in that moment. Whatever happens after that isn't actually down to you, Joe Berry. You did your job. The other guys at times failed in those last 30 seconds. Yeah. He buried it. He had a great moment. Speaking back to Durden, was looking at the numbers while you were talking. Durden has 6 disposals, Berry has 11. They have 17 between them. They kick 4 goals, and they have their impact on the game. So that's kind of what you want out of those. That's what our forward structure. Again, to give Mitch Georgiades and the tools their plaudits, because I know I sounded maybe hypercritical of Mitch Georgiades in moments before. Their structure is allowing the Durdens to go to work and stuff like that. So the overall forward structure and what Mitch is doing is I'm loving everything we're doing in the forward line. It's just like convert just a touch better, and we could be 6-2 instead of 3-5 as we are right now. That's the fine margins.
Yeah,
and whether we maybe we shouldn't be the team that is 6-2, and that's but one more point before we go to segments. We often talk about percentage and percentage being a good indicator. We're 110% on the ladder at the moment.
Yeah, healthy.
Yeah, it's a healthy percentage. I think it's the 6th or 7th best percentage in the competition. I think when I was looking, or maybe I was looking at another stat. And either way, we're in the wildcard spots on percentage. We're not obviously on the ladder, but it's a good indicator, because at times last year when we were, in the last few years, we've kind of looked at it and been like, percentage is the one area that we're down on. This year, results we're a bit down on, but percentage we're up, and being that we're in a team in transition at the moment, I think it's a good point to bring up that we're competitive. The metrics, as we've talked about across this episode of the podcast so far, are reasonably healthy, and the team is performing well. We're just, getting a little bit of heartbreak at the moment, which comes with an inexperienced young team. That's what happens. So yeah,
it's really only the
is there
North
any other
Melbourne game. Yeah, well, I was just saying it's really only the North Melbourne game that the scoring got out of hand from the opposition point of view. If you take that out, then talking about percentages and whatnot, which is a bit nuffy areas for me to keep going on with. But yeah, it is really the outlier to our season. And it was our first game under a new regime, new game plan. So, hell was running loose after that game. But we've warmed into the season well, and like you said, the work of our forward structure and our forward strategy is is paving the way for our small forwards to benefit. And I think now in the modern era, we've seen that small forwards in finals are potentially the ones that separate you in games and tend to be the ones winning, Norm Smith medals and being best on grounds in finals, where it is more a ground based game, largely. So, not to say that we're going to play finals or have a big impact on finals if we do potentially make it somehow this year. But these are the seeds that are being sown for the future, which are quite promising.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's absolutely agreed. Yeah, to the point of the North Melbourne game versus the other results. I think we lost to St Kilda by 14 points, Hawthorn by 3, West Coast by 2,
West Coast 2. Yeah.
Yeah, Crows 1.
All close.
So basically, outside of North Melbourne, our combined losing margin in the other 4 results is 20 points. So that's
something like that. Yeah.
Terrible quick math. So, but that kind of goes to show the percentage and the underlying game plan and ethos is building towards competitive results, which is good to see. One more thing I wanted to bring up, just as it's nothing else but a pat on the back to myself, begrudgingly. I did kind of call out in the preview that Kim Dillon was on his rampage last week on SEN about wanting to drop Ben Keys third, and I said in our preview, I said that Ben Keys, I think, is the kind of player you just don't drop for a showdown because he's been class for the Crows. This is the kind of game, if you're going to get him, give him a chance to get back some form, and just also it's a showdown. Give your best players if they're fit, a guy like Ben Keys, give him a showdown role. Third best rated player for the Crows on the field was Ben Keys, and he obviously is their top scorer of 3 goals as well. And obviously he's still probably like a ways off his best form, but he still had a tangible impact on the game. So just a shout out to our own podcast that we talk about these things, and also just a little bit of objectivity that Ben Keys genuinely had an impact on the result. And I was kind of hoping, as Kim Dillon was going on his rampage last week about dropping Ben Keys, I was hoping that some dumbass at the Crows would listen to him, because I was like, drop Ben Keys because that would help us. But he ultimately didn't get dropped and had an impact on the game, because Ben Keys is very, very good in the Crow system when they're working. When they get their system working okay, Ben Keys is going to benefit because he's that kind of player. So, disappointing result, suffice to say. But I think we're about to get into the segments and talk about some things that we did. There was plenty to love about this game, despite the result, obviously, with it being a close one. So, of course, in this time in the podcast, we always go to a little bit of a call to action. And I want everyone that's listening, obviously, if you're listening, you probably do like and follow on all the socials and whatever podcast network you utilize. But if you don't follow anywhere, I want you to get around the socials, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We want to build a following, get people around there. The interactions in those areas are really, really pleasing. We do enjoy them. Enjoy getting into the chat. Love to get past 1,000 on Facebook, 1,000 followers on Twitter, beyond 500 and heading towards 1,000 on Instagram as well. We kind of want to set some goals for ourselves here. If you're sitting here regularly listening and thinking, I'm not sure if I follow in those areas, get on there. Just get on your account if you've got one and just follow, subscribe, like, whatever it may be. And of course, that goes for YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Pods as well. Spotify and Apple Pods, if you're subscribing and liking, subscribing and rating and reviewing it helps us there. But even if you listen on Spotify or Apple, but have a YouTube account, get on there and like and subscribe to the videos and the account. It does help the podcast get out to more people, even if you're not going to consume it via YouTube. If they see another subscriber there and likes on the videos, it does help get things out there and help grow the podcast, which will, of course, help us to be able to do more and more with the podcast as well. So appreciate whatever way you can do. And obviously, if you're just across all of those, really, really appreciate it. Well, I do see some names that just pop up in all different areas, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Those guys and gals out there that just pop up in all those areas, really, really appreciate you guys just being across all of the areas. But if you're not one of those ones yet, do it. Of course, if you're only using one or two things, we do understand. I do understand that social media can be tiresome, but you do have the ability to like and subscribe and help us out in any way you possibly can. It's about time to get to the segments. Let's hit the sting for the Wilson Gray.
Down, Gray doing brilliantly, getting through to Monfries. That's Gray at his best.
Wilson kicks hard and kicks cruelly.
Oh, man, I've been thinking a lot about Robbie Gray and his 5-goal quarter over the weekend. Considering he's playing some very, very good footy in Vic amateur footy at the moment as well, Robbie Gray. Both him and Pokey playing very, very well in their retirement, which, of course, well done to them getting to enjoy country, soul to the earth footy again. Wilson Gray, I get to go first this week. Of course, the Wilson Gray Award efforts and things that we love around the field, obviously outside of goal scoring opportunities. Last week's winner was it was a close one in both segments last week, so I look forward to talking about the goal of the week one as well. But the last week's winner in the Wilson Gray was Jordan Sweet's sweet candy he sold last week against Geelong.
Sweet can.
Sweet. 60% of the vote over your nomination of Logan Evans. Pressure. He's doubled kind of second efforts that we were all fucking loving last week. Second efforts. And a very, very lively vote with Sweets Candy. 60% is a decent number, but obviously very, very close with the amount of votes we're getting. So, a good robust voting group last week. And of course, I'll talk about the goal of the week and a little bit there with that one as well being quite close. But my nomination this week, one that was watching on replay, I actually found a lot. So I'm really, really pleased with the efforts for the Wilson Gray. But my nomination this week, before you get to yours, and then we can talk about any other honorable mentions. It's aesthetically pleasing. There's hair flowing. It is Lockie Jones. I think Mark Rasciuto referred to him as a wild Brumby, taking down Ben Keys with about 13 minutes to go in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Got some momentum now. Pedler, Keys, caught by Jones.
He's a big ball, Lockie Jones. I shook hands with him before the game, and you wouldn't want to run into the big fella, that's for sure, especially at full tilt with his hair going everywhere.
Me too.
Like a wild Brumby.
Oh, yeah. Just fucking, he just ate him up. It was one of those classic football tackles. Fair. He kind of takes the edge off at the end, but it was a great tackle and he fucking takes him down. And of course, the commentary team. It's one of those ones where the commentary team helps build the moment in the highlight too.
Yeah, he had a couple of those tackles where he was just there in the right spot at the right time and just nailed him. So again, more off-ball stuff for Lockie Jones, although I noticed that he's kicking at 89% by foot this year, which is fantastic. I think he's only averaging about 8 kicks per game, but still now 8 games into the season and kicking it that well just goes to show that once he gets his hand on the ball, you can trust him to dispose of it fairly efficiently. But that's a tackle, and that was a delicious tackle. It was also on my short list. Honorable mentions are plenty. Couple of Aaliyah efforts. No fear Aaliyah getting his hand in, playing in front versus Philthorpe in the third quarter, when it looked like Philthorpe was going to take a mark over the top, and Aaliyah just gets his hand up. And then in the fourth quarter, Aaliyah just coming from nowhere, so to speak, to outbody Murray and take that contested intercept mark. But I'm going to go, for an maybe off-Broadway one as well. I'm going to go, there's a moment of chaos, 14 minutes and change on the clock in the third quarter, a bit of chaos in the middle. And I think Jacob Ware, it may have been a mistake by him that initiates a bit of chaos. The ball ends up on the floor, but he dives on it to then flick the ball out to, I think, Zach Butters off the top of my head. And then we get an inside 50. But like you said, the commentary as well, I think it even had Mark Rasciuto going, good footy. He just gets on the ground, corrects an issue, and flicks the ball out, which I thought was nice.
Back to Butters, missed his target. Taylor caught. It'll work though. Berry couldn't get there. Where did get there? Dives back in, good flicks footy. It up. Brilliant.
Yeah, we love those kind of efforts. An honourable mention for me as well. It was kind of second on my shortlist was the Butters contest, and I think just into the third quarter, where he kind of has a 50-50 ball with Sam Berry, and he just fucking whacks Berry, and kind of the ball spills out to, I think, and it's the one that ends up in Whitlock putting the ball into Durden. Just thought that Butters contest with Berry was just true football stuff. It's one of those moments where you remember, because we live in a world where, you know, footy a lot is like, we're so worried about concussions and all those things, which are very, very valid things to be concerned about. But we see a moment where two bodies clash in a kind of a violent way, but there's actually no violence to it in the results of it. It's just two bodies clash and they get up and keep going at it. So I really, really enjoyed that one. It was a showdown full of kind of moments like that. Sometimes not the cleanest, but really excited to see how the vote goes. Of course, if you're listening to this episode is coming out on Tuesday. The Wilson Gray and Goal of the Week nominations will be put up on the Creed Instagram page on Tuesday evening, not the usual Wednesday time. Of course, Tuesday this week being that we're recording on the Monday. Get around the Creed Instagram page at around between 6 and 7 p.m. is when I get them up in the Instagram stories, and then you vote from there. They're up for 24 hours. You vote. I put up a video package of the two moments we've selected in both Wilson Gray and Goal of the Week, and you vote for your best one, which then goes into the mixer for our ultimate end of the year award for the Wilson Gray and Goal of the Week. And speaking of the Goal of the Week, let's get to it.
Monfries has kicked a goal. Unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like that. It's gone at right angle.
Flashpoint. Stevie Modloff. What a time. Oh! He is floating on air now.
Just realizing how many of the fucking Sting moments are from Showdowns and like
Showdowns, yeah, exactly. Again, yeah. Why can't we have more of those moments?
Yeah. I need Joe Berry. Buries it without anything else.
And we nearly did have one of those moments. Yeah. And look, I'm going to cut to the chase because it's low hanging fruit, but that's my nomination.
From the scramble, Ollie, one of their all-time greats, hands it over, Berry buries it!
Oh, dear. There we go.
That's the goal.
That's the joke. It's good. Jamie's jumped right in there with his nomination. So that's, Berry's on my list was Berry's almost winner because it should have been
should have been.
Yeah.
Should have been the hero. And just to cut in before you say yours, you mentioned that we mentioned on pod about wanting Berry to have his moment. But for those listening and watching on YouTube, thanks again. Appreciate every single bloody one of you. But it is something that we also talk about a lot off camera and off my. I know we were messaging and whatnot. Just like, we've been backing Berry like so hard. We just want him to seal the deal, and like he did, he fucking did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but he didn't. He doesn't get to enjoy it.
Yeah, he did his role. It's just the rest didn't, and it's just like, fuck, man. A great nomination from you though as well. It was, of course, an incredible finish, incredible goal, and almost incredible moment. Or it's still an incredible moment in isolation. It's just like if you have amnesia from that moment on and don't actually know what happened afterwards. By the way, last week's winner was JHF. GF powering from stoppage in the fourth quarter past Geelong. One with 55% of the vote over Sweet's check side. So Sweet had a very, very good week in the voting last week. Almost, obviously won the Wilson Gray nomination and was very, very close with his check side finish to beating GF from stoppage. JHF does win that one with 55% of the vote. My nomination, I did have Berry in my shortlist, but I, knowing you were going first, I was like, I feel like Jamie will go with that one. I had a very, very able second pick, and I'll be interested to see what people reward in the vote this week. Butters from the boundary after that free kick that we talked about earlier.
Fist to the boundary. Butters hits the fence. Push. Shot to Port Adelaide, free for a push against Saliga on Butters, who hit the fence. Zach Butters' repertoire. It's going! It's going! It's gone! And it's going to rattle the cage from the front row to the nosebleed section here at the Adelaide Oval.
In the episode.
It was there.
Yeah, absolutely fucking there. Don't give the umpire a decision to make. I sound like a fucking angry grandma, just like, don't fucking give him a decision to make. It was absolutely there, and Butters said, "Ball don't fucking lie," and finished it just with beautiful aplomb from a very, very difficult boundary finish. Obviously, with plenty of Crows fans probably giving him a bit of stick, and he finished beautifully.
And that's another first-round draft pick on the trade table.
Yeah. Isn't it funny since the talk about Butters' one deficiency being goal kicking, he's basically almost at a goal a game since.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, going the early Crow just because we have a litany of fucking media outlets to discuss footy, which is a topic that we could get lost in for sure. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Vincentini's goal. We should just go back to calling him his actual name. Vincentini's goal in the third quarter. I had that on my shortlist because it was just a nice build-up. It was a defensive 50 to inside 50 goal as well, coast to coast. Logan Evans kicks it to lie. McKinlay on the wing, so again, being involved. Fleeting moments for McKinlay. And then it's Sweet, who kicks it inside 50, funnily enough, and it's a bit of a contest. George is in the pack, and Vicentini gets a hand in, flicks it forward, and then seals the deal, which is a very sorely needed goal in the context of the quarter, because we were definitely up against it in the pressure stakes. But yeah, nice goal, good team effort goal, which is an honourable mention, of course.
Yeah, I do like that we're basically having a ruckman score a goal every week since the dual ruck setup's been going, which is kind of what you want from having that setup, in the way where one being forward and not, and Sweet takes a great contested mark up forward and obviously misses the ensuing shot, but again, like, just the ability for those guys to go forward and have an impact up forward is really, and a great goal as well. I'll look forward to seeing what wins that one, because it's what the people's memories are tainted by what happened after, because Berry doesn't deserve that, but that could be a factor in people's votes. So I look forward to seeing how that goes. Because I did go a very safe option, but just like Butters from the boundary is just a very emotional tangent for people to grab onto as well. All right, let's get to our Player of the Year votes.
Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting.
Alrighty, Player of the Year votes. Of course, Jamie and I every week vote for our Player of the Year. Ultimately, the votes going forward to our Player of the Year, 5-1 voting, with 5 votes going to our best on field, 1 being our 5th best on field. We alternate each week who gets to read our votes out on podcast first, without us knowing who each other have voted for. I get to go first this week, and my one vote has been a spot that I've been really, really fucking around with over the last 24 hours, because I've been really, really struggling with who I want to reward. Ultimately, I have gone, and to go harken back to the forward line chat, I've gone with Mitch Georgiades in my one vote. He would have been further up if he'd maybe converted 1 or 2 more opportunities. But I think still his impact on the forward line structure, as we talked about
Getting
before,
sick of saying that.
Yeah, exactly. He could be in the 3 to 5 spot every week if he just converts a couple more. And it is harsh, I think, because forwards and backs are sometimes voted a little bit more harshly based on what they're doing and their impact. But I think Georgiades has such a chance to be even better than what he is right now, and that's why I've got him in the 1 spot. Obviously, 3 goals, 3, takes 6 marks inside 50, has a tangible impact on the result being so close as it is, but then he could have had a tangible impact on it being possibly a win, which is kind of where I go at. He's had the 7 score involvements as well, which is equal best on field, I think, looking at my stats there. So he's been so close to having an even bigger impact on the game that it already has, but he gets in the 1 vote still, so he's my 5th best on field. In my 2 spot, I have Jason Horne-Francis. I obviously, I'm not giving any honourable mentions yet because Jamie's yet to go with his votes. But yeah, in my 2 spot, I have Jason Horne-Francis, 20 disposals, 10 contested, has 75% disposal efficiency, 7 scorer involvements, 7 clearances, which is best on field, 5 from the centre, which is also best on 2 stoppage clearances as well. He has 16 pressure acts, and I think, obviously, as we talked about before, I think he was playing through a touch of discomfort throughout the game. I don't think he was severely hampered by it, but it was a touch of discomfort. And I think his impact on the game, based on his clearance work and his disposal efficiency and some of his kicks his inside 50 work, was pretty good for having 20 disposals, which compared to the last couple of weeks is a little bit down on his impact. But I think his impact from 20 disposals was really, really good. So yeah, I got him into my 2 spot. I have Zach Butters in my 3 spot, 30 disposals, 12 contested, 66% disposal efficiency. And he has the 4 clearances, 5 inside 50s, 6 score involvement, 6 tackles. He has 5-1 percenters, 441 meters gained. Led Port with 26 pressure acts as well. Kind of wasn't the quintessential Zach Butters game. There's a few of those stats I read out that I'm like, you'd like a little bit more, but and certainly our third quarter we talked about, he was a little bit down on, mentioned in commentary at one point he only had the 4 disposals, but at that point in the third quarter, but he still had 30 disposals from Zach Butters is going to have an impact on the game, and he definitely had his moments in the game that could have won us the game. Again, one that we lost by 1 point. It's fine margins. Ollie Wines is my 4 spot. Any other game like this from Ollie Wines almost gets him best on field. But the 30 disposals, 18 contested, and I want to make a real point of this, is 76.7% disposal efficiency with 18 contested possessions out of his 30 disposals. I think that's really, really impressive stuff that he can have the kind of contested game he does and have that kind of disposal efficiency. He has the 7 clearances. His 7 clearances. Sorry, yeah, I did say Jason Horne-Francis was best on ground. 7 clearances was equal best on, but Ollie Wines is all from stoppage, or it's 6 stoppage, 1 clearance, 1 center, whereas Horne-Francis was bulk center clearance, a couple stoppage. So they kind of little bit of 1-2 punch there and how they were able to work their clearance game. Ollie Wines obviously sets up the almost winner to Joe Berry with his stoppage work there. He has a 7 tackles, 7 score involvements, 10 ground ball gets, 17 pressure acts. Obviously, has a great mark down forward, playing in that moment as a forward and converts with the goal. So yeah, a great Ollie Wines game again. I can't fucking say enough about how good the football Ollie Wines is playing since he's come back. Again, at no more than 68% time on ground as well. That has to be mentioned there. But a man that had 100% time on ground, as he does seemingly every week, Aliir, 21 disposals, 10 of his disposals contested. He obviously has the 14 marks, 4 of those contested. He has the 14 intercept possessions. He has the 4 score involvements in himself, 6 rebound 50s, 428 meters gained. He has the 5-1 percenters, spoils as well. Just an incredible Aliir game. I did mention earlier, of course, the clangers. He was up in the clangers in the game, but it was partly based on the game that was played. There was a couple of goals given up, but I think if you went back through it and actually just keyed in on Aliir's game alone, if you went on goals saved versus goals given up, you'd sit there and say Aliir's had a win. So as much as my constructive criticism earlier was very, very much meant to be constructive criticism, he is absolutely my best on field because his impact on that game almost ultimately won us the game.
Look, I totally agree. And we actually came so close to a Yahtzee this week.
It's been a while since we had a Yahtzee too, hasn't it?
It has been longer than I would have thought.
Yeah.
So honorable mentions for me one goes out to Jordan Sweet. I actually documented a few league-wide stats just because we're a third of the way in. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just we've got representatives in, top 10s, top 5s, top 20s of some certain stats. But just Jordan Sweet for the season now so far, he's 6th in hitouts, but 3rd in the competition for hitouts to advantage. And he's actually 10th for stoppage clearances in the competition as well. So a bit of that midfield prowess that we've, I guess, getting used to from Jordan Sweet. Ended up higher rated player than Lockie McAndrew. So overall, over the course of the game, he was better in that position. Miles Bergman, I think now is putting in a couple of good weeks. I think this is a step up from last week, if I'm being honest. Would really love him and Lockie Jones to take back that moment that I think ends up in the Miller shot on goal. Swings and roundabouts in a game of football. I've actually got Jeff as an honourable mention. Yeah, some highlight moments for sure. But yeah, not the impact that he's had over the last couple of weeks. And on top of that, so I've got George in my one spot as well. Agree with everything you said there. If he kicked more, he'd be up, but he was one of the best 5 players for Port Adelaide on the day. The only differential with our votes is I've actually given 2 votes to Logan Evans because I'm really enjoying his progression in the season. He had 23 disposals, 17 intercept possessions. 16 of his disposals were kicks, and overall he's gone at 82 and change % disposal efficiency, 468 meters gain. He took 7 marks, 2 of which were intercepts, 3 score launches, which means his possession has started a chain that has ended up in a score, and 6 score involvements overall, 6 rebound 50s and 4 1%ers. I just thought that, before I just go back on Logan Evans, Butters 3 votes, Wines 4 votes, and Alia's my best on ground, of course. One stat you didn't mention with Alia, 8 contested defensive one-on-ones, and he only lost 2 of them. And it's a stat that I bring up occasionally because it's only an occasional stat because you only really get 1, 2, on a good day, 3 contested defensive one-on-ones. And, if you're good enough to win them all, that's pretty noteworthy. But he had 8 contested defensive one-on-ones. And while he lost 2, he won 6, which is, just phenomenal. But back on Logan Evans, can't play 5 representative as well. Slapping the base in the can't play 5. I just couldn't do my votes without having more than one defender, because the defense as a whole, excuse me, stood up like we mentioned in that line, and Logan Evans was a key contributor to that. His defensive integrity, 1-on-1, intercept, like as like a assistant to other defenders. And his rebounding ability on the game. I mentioned that goal, the Visentini's goal. That was one of his score launches that ended up in that goal too. I just think, he's moving along fantastically well. And while he had the sophomore sads, is it?
Sophomore
he's
slump. The sophomore sads is also very, very good.
Yeah, sophomore slump. That's it. And he's definitely bounced back with aplomb this year. He looks bigger. He looks like he's got more power. He's really holding up his own. I love that about him. He's only a young man. But I mentioned the kangaroo and the emu on the Australian coat of arms. Not taking a backward step. That's Logan Evans is giving that vibe. He's really attacking each game as it comes.
Yeah. No, I was really, really glad. That's why I gave you the applause when you nominated him, because basically my one spot I had M. Georgiades or Logan Evans, and maybe I should have probably looked at Horne-Francis a little bit more, but I did appreciate the impact Horne-Francis had from possibly limited opportunity. But Logan Evans was my first one out, so to speak, in my votes. So really, really glad to see you get him in there, because he's really, really deserving of the plaudits out of that game. Thought he started well. The first 4 forward that the Crows have, he takes a really, really good mark. A little bit of poise as a defender, like able to edge his opponent under the ball and take the mark without giving away the free, which I think is in a game that is so anti-defender at times, like the ability to do that is actually, I think, a positive point for defenders to do, because the game, again, doesn't reward defenders for much. So if you can figure out the ways to defend well within the bounds of the game, I think is really, really good. And Evans had a great impact on the game, and he's been one of the highlights. He was the 6th highest rated player, I think, in champion data ratings or Wheeler data, whichever ones I was looking at. I think he was our 6th highest rated player. that goes to show kind of the impact
Yeah.
that and some of the analytics community is seeing that he's having as well. That he was our sixth best on field based on that as well.
His and Bergman's, Sweet's up there, but Evans and Bergman's stats are fairly similar.
Yeah.
Like Bergman took 11 marks in comparison to Logan's 7, but I just felt that Logan's defensive integrity was just slightly better. And there was just, a couple, I think score involvement point of view also put him up in my books. But in regards to the 30 votes overall that we give, I think JHF deserves 2 out of that 30 to go back on what you're saying with your deliberation. Like, because he had a good game. But yeah, like I said, I just couldn't have Aaliyah as the only defender in a game where I thought our defense stood up under a fair bit of adversity.
Yeah, when you've had 59 inside 50s against and only given up 76 points and lost by a point, the defense has done a fair bit of work. Yeah, no, it's a great way to a great way to look at it. And look, let's hope there's another great defensive effort coming up this week as we start to wrap up here, and look forward to another Friday night match. This Friday, the 8th of May, playing the Bulldogs at Adelaide Oval. Obviously, it's 2 weeks in a row, Adelaide Oval, but our first home game for a couple of weeks for us sport fans. 7:40 p.m. at Adelaide Oval on a night that is looking like a 19-degree high day. A little bit of rain around this week. The wintry change to autumn has finally come in over the last 24 hours for us here in South Australia. So, maybe a little bit more wintry conditions than we've been dealing with over the last month or two going to the footy. But, an interesting position for our side to be in because we had a couple of niggles in this game, but the official injury report out of the game match report itself has no injuries for Port Adelaide. Obviously, we looked at Horne-Francis and I think even Logan Evans went off at one point, but he came back on, seemed fine. I think we're obviously recording this on Monday as we compared to our usual recording on a Tuesday when we have the injury report. So we don't have the official Port Adelaide injury report yet, but based on the game that was played, we don't have any forced changes coming to us. It ultimately depends on where Harrison Ram and Asava Radikalia are at possibly in the next week or so. But going back to the point that we made in the review of this show, I think, being too harsh on a Todd Marshall at this point would be harsh to use the word twice in a sentence.
Todd Harshall, if you will.
Very good.
And I know you will. Look, it is interesting because the Bulldogs are on a losing run that they would like to kick quickly. Obviously, we all know why. But like I said in a previous pod, been there, done that, and kind of doing it right now vis-a-vis injuries. So I kind of predict an unchanged lineup. Again, we don't have the injury report officially. And also Hamish Hartlett's press conference and a couple of, I think, journos outside of that. They've all said that all of our returnees will come back through the SANFL. So we're expecting Asava, Harrison Ram, Tommy Cochran, and there was one more, I think, or Manny Liddy next week. I think maybe the 4th. So, good to have guys coming back because, desperately need the pressure just to keep our season rolling. We need the pressure coming up from beneath. And I'll take that in the Maggies for sure, having some of those players back. But unchanged lineup for me. It's going to be a great game. I look forward to previewing it on Thursday once we have a better picture of what the sides look like and what the outlook is.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the game. Looking forward to being down there Friday night footy that we haven't got to experience yet ourselves as Port fans this year. Obviously, we played in the Friday night game last week, and for those that braved it down there, shout out to Kathy, listener, and I met down at the Port store a couple of weeks ago. She said she was at the game on Friday night, and so salute to you for dealing with the away Showdown crowd, because it's something that I've done a couple of times. I was at the Angus Montfrees the last game at Footy Park. That was only saved by the fact that we won it. Like, otherwise that would have been another horrible experience. And the litany of away showdowns I've been to, and I try not to do it these days. So, shout out to those that were at Footy Park for Footy Park, Adelaide Oval for a Port Adelaide game on Friday night this year. But for most of us, this is our first Friday night game this year, and very, very much looking forward to it. Hopefully, reasonable conditions for footy. Obviously, getting into autumn/winter conditions, and just looking forward to getting around a game that looks far more winnable than it did, a month or so ago against the Bulldogs side. That, yes, as you said, dealing with injury, but we are as well, and they're gettable for a result here, I think, and I will just note, obviously we'll do a full preview, but Willow Ratings currently has us at a 51.1% chance of a 0.9 point win. So that's the first time I've seen us favoured in ever so slightly.
I'm scared.
Yeah, I know. Well, the last few weeks it's been like, Geelong and Hawthorn with 5 or 6 goal losses was the prediction. So, I don't want to be... I've enjoyed being underdogs, but we are slightly ever. And look, that is a favourability that is so slight. It is basically just a coin flip, but it goes.
Zach Butters' audition game? Question mark.
Just get us fucking draft picks because he's dumb.
No, fuck off. We're keeping him.
Yeah. I'm not fucking leaving.
Oh, yeah. I pray for that meme to be launched on the Port socials come the end of the season. There can be no other clip if that were to happen. There can be no other clip.
It's like, get Butters to recreate it himself. He's got the vernacular. We know he's got it.
Yeah, just get him to swear and everything. I'm not fucking leaving.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate, he said leaving, not paying, okay, to those out there. All right, we should wrap this up before you just devolve into Wolf of Wall Street, verbiage. But
memes
thank
and
you,
movies.
as always, for listening. Yeah, we can do that all day. Thank you for listening, as always. We really, really appreciate it. Obviously, these reviews for games like this go a little bit longer, but we appreciate all those that have stuck around for the full course meal that it has been. Obviously, a heartbreaking result, but one that we can still see a lot of positives out of as the Josh Carr era just continues to tick along just quietly and nicely and somewhat underrated at the moment, but doing some good things. So thank you, Jamie, as always, my co-pilot, the talent of the podcast. Thank you for being along for the ride.
Thanks for having me, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you later on with an outlook on the game versus the Bulldogs. But yeah, thanks again.